So we're now going to talk about stumbling into a multiplayer hit with 2 million downloads a day, 2 million engagements a day, 2 million times a day is the phrase I've got here. And we've got Chris from Photon who's going to tell us all about that. So Chris, come on up.
Good morning, everyone. So I thought about changing the topic to Unity pricing fees, but just was reading my Slack this morning, it was. Yeah, I'm Chris, founder and CTO of Exit Games. We built Photon, which is a multiplayer technology. We are around for quite a while. So this year we celebrate 20 years of Exit Games, so that's, I feel really old, I think. So we started basically when Nokia was still a thing, and I see a couple of faces here which I met really back in the days. So worked with Rovio really early on before they actually did Angry Birds and so on. So what is Photon? Really quick. So we make multiplayer simple. So in fact, multiplayer is not super simple, but we try really hard to make it simple. So we have netcode or multiplayer SDKs which we give. We do not build or publish games, so we solely focus on building technology. We are used by, we just crossed the line of 800,000 studios, so that's really fun. Well, it's developers, right? To be clear, it's not studios necessarily. And when I explain to my parents, what are you doing? I'm saying so we build the best shovels for the gold diggers, right? So everyone needs shovels. So this is how we are successful, but only a few studios actually find gold. So what is this talk about? So we stumbled into this title. And I want to tell the story how this happened. So it was, Stumble Guys was the top downloaded game last year, or one of the top downloaded games. Only Subway Surfers had more downloads. So we were even one place ahead of Roblox, which was really nice. So how did this thing happen? So I go through different phases and different acts. So we started the project in August 2020. We did a partnership, we went live, we iterated for about a year. The game became humongous, and eventually we sold the game. So how did the idea came? So there was this game which inspired us, which was Fall Guys, of course. So it was hugely popular on PC and console. So we thought, oh, we should try to build a mobile version of that game. And by incident, we had a product called Quantum, which was perfectly suited for this game. So Fall Guys is 32 players, multiplayer on mobile phones. So it was supposed to work on Android, on iOS, basically on really crappy phones, and still have networked physics and everything. So we had the right product to do the job. So we said, okay, let's try this out and build a tech prototype. So, and the tech prototype, as you see on the right picture, was really looking super ugly. So it was horrible. And this is what we used to do, is really building ugly tech demos. But it really worked brilliantly on a mobile phone. So we thought, wow, this is cool. So I thought, okay, before we give this to our developers as a tech demo, let's see if we could launch this game just for fun. So I went out and called a couple of friends and partners, and basically the conversation was like this: hey, I have an idea. And then the answer was, oh yeah, this sounds cool, but this is too risky for us, so we don't think this will work. So And I had a call with a guy in Finland, Olli. So he had a very tiny studio called Kitka Games. And I had the same conversation with him, and he said, yeah, sorry, interesting, but I don't think this will work. So the next day he called me and said, hey, I thought about it, so what can we lose, right? So let's do this and try it out, and we can always stop. So Kitka was basically Olli and 2 artists and 1 back-end developer. So from our side, it was just myself. I'm mostly overhead, let's say, and a couple of very good developers. And we launched the first version of the game in 6 weeks. It had 6 levels, 32 skins. It has a custom backend. So if you would ask me, if you are a new studio or launching a game and you build your own backend, I would say you're nuts. So you should definitely go with PlayFab or whatever, any technology out there. But I said, yeah, whatever, you guys will know, and very simple analytics. So, and we launched the game. It had basically no monetization, so we didn't make any money. But day one retention was 55%. So it was like absolutely mind-blowing. So we knew we had something. And the game was break-even after 2 weeks already. But as I said, the monetization was really horrible. And we thought, okay, this is a great game, super success, but we don't think we can make this game really monetizing well. So Olli was starting to talk to his friends in Finland, which is very well known for good developer connections, let's say, just to see, okay, where could we go? And then we started to iterate and iterate. So we built new levels and skins. I say we, I have to say it's mostly Kitka Games, right? So we were just the guys building Quantum and the technology behind it. So the guys added video ads, pre-rolls and post-rolls and colors and emotes. So initially you could basically buy every character. In the end, of course, we had the booster packs and let's say all the tribal knowledge. If you build a mobile game, you basically always do the same stuff. And we eventually built a PC version because we thought this could be really interesting for cross-platform play. So, and then, so this is a bit what happened. So we were already in the beginning, we were break even. Or the money coming in, let's say, was covering the cost. So it was not really a huge team. And then at some point, streamers started to pick up the game. So the game was built in a way that you could easily, so it was streamer friendly. So you could start the game and then you would have a code there where you could join the streamer in his play, basically, to play live. So they were, and the good streamers, the games were full in milliseconds, basically. And then this took completely off. So it was in Brazil, a couple of really streamers with millions of subscribers were pushing the game. And I have to say, the game, we didn't do any user acquisition, so it was really ridiculous. And at some point, so we went #1 in a lot of countries. So it started in South America, Brazil, Argentina. Then it went from Brazil, probably because of the language and the streamers in Portuguese. It went to Portugal. So then it kind of went inside Europe. The game became more and more popular. So we became #1 in a lot of European countries. India picked it up initially, so we were super popular there. It went down, but we went up again. And eventually in July, so pretty much 1 year ago, we were #1 in the US. Initially, Android was dominating. Later on, we were super popular on iOS as well. So the success was overwhelming for us So we did our job. So we added, at some point, we had to add servers like crazy, because at peak, the game was downloaded 2 million times a day, and then which resulted in 25 million daily active users in the game. So it was very, very big across. And then we had the crisis. So not sure if you remember. So it was COVID that time, and then suddenly you couldn't get machines anymore. So it was a bit a challenge, let's say, to add servers worldwide, so that's our job. So, but Kitka, the studio, was overwhelmed big time in terms of support and everything. So we started to say, okay, what are the options we have? So either you guys scale and do proper community support, or we just experiment and say, let's try out and see if we can sell it. So first decision you have to make, do we involve bankers? I'm not sure how many people have been involved in M&A processes. Usually you have this banker guys, very corporate but really well connected, to kind of get you a lot of offers, eventually get you into a bidding thing. But we decided, okay, no, we just go to our favorite studios and just offer to sell it. And we do it as entrepreneurs, so from Photon side and from Kitka side. So eventually we had very famous companies interested. So with a couple of them, we already had good connections and relationships. So we eventually went with Scopely, signed a term sheet, exclusivity, 6 weeks, and we signed the deal and kind of went off. It was a special deal because not the team was sold with the product, it was a pure game sale, which is a bit tough because you have a team which is really performing well on a game. But the studio, Kitka in this case, was not willing, let's say, to continue in a huge studio to continue work there. So we had a long transition period, I think of 1 or 2 years, where we kept helping, and we are still powering the game, so it's still our biggest game from the Photon side of things. And I have to say, what Scopely has done with the game, so all the partnerships with Mattel and everything, like they built first-person shooters into the game, it's really impressive. But you have to say, so we had a team of, let's say, maybe 10 people, and Scopely has now a team of hundreds of people feeding the game, dealing with community and so on. But of course, the game is making quite a lot of revenue. So what are the takeaways for me? So one is fortune favors the brave. So this is definitely not something you can repeat. So I think it's a great story. It's a cool accident. But of course, I would repeat Stumble Guys. If I would be able to repeat it, I would instantly say, yeah, sure, bring it on, right? We are like masterminds in taking something and making it successful. So we can't. So we cannot repeat it. But you have to try a lot of things, basically, to find your fortune, let's say. And that's what we found, right? We do 10 things and maybe one thing is successful. So another thing here on your intuition and do things your way. So we decided not to take a banker, right? Everyone I asked was saying, hey, you guys need to have bankers, you get the best price out of it, blah, blah, blah. But we said, no, we want to have a very down-to-earth, let's say, sales process, and we want to be involved, and it's our game, and we want to find a good home for it. Long-term relationships, so everything you saw here, we work with teams, we had a long-year relationship, we sold to a partner, we had a long-term relationship, so it's about trust and working with humble people, and this is what I personally enjoy in the games industry, so you usually meet a lot of humble people, and it's really you are not fooled, basically. And another nice side effect was or a lot of the time we hear, oh, Photon is so expensive, basically from people who never paid us. So, and I can say our pricing totally works, which was a free-to-play game with millions of downloads. And I used actually StumbleGuys this morning just quickly to iterate on the new Unity pricing. So just to throw this out there for food of thought. So they charge per install. I'm not sure how much you've read. And so this game definitely would be across the line of paying per install, of course. The line is pretty high. So if you do a normal game, you wouldn't even have to pay something. But here you would pay, you would go for the Unity Enterprise version, which would be 1 cent per install. So per day, it would be 20,000, so 2 million downloads per day, right? Times the 1 cent. So that would be, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, that would be $20,000 a day in fees, times 30. So it would be around $500,000 to $600,000 cost, but only if you have 60 million downloads, right? And the game is making a lot of money, right? So I think it kind of makes sense, but the problem is you don't only have Unity. You have Unity, you have Photon, maybe you have Playfair, maybe you have Quago, the cheat thing, maybe you have Toxmod for whatever. You have to pay all these partners. So I can see that because you have all these little things, it may add up to quite a bit cost. But I can see that charging or Unity has some value, so I think that's up for discussion. So it's interesting. I'm not yet decided. Yeah, I think I'm done. I have another minute or so for questions.
We'll get into the debate on the Unity thing later, but that's another subject. Anyone got any questions? Do we have any questions on StumbleGuys, which is obviously such a profoundly important thing? I mean, it is an interesting one, I think, particularly looking at the style of play and the immediacy of it, because you've got so many people in a space. It seems to me that the way that game works so well is because of the way that you unlock the ability for streamers to bring people into that game, and therefore getting critical mass for a good playing session became something that was very, very easy to do. Do you think other games can learn about that critical mass problem from what StumbleGuys did?
So from the beginning, which was one of our key features, is we added bots. So you could be in a StumbleGuys game with 32 players and you would be the only real person in there, and you would hardly recognize it because the bots were really
and I think bots
nicely built.
Essential, but I think it's something different about when a real person turns up, and I think that's why, for me, the StumbleGuys thing about being able to bring people into your
So even when real people played, people were claiming it's full of bots, right?
Yeah,
so players are really weird. So
you heard it here first. Players are weird.
But you need bots, so we see a lot of our customers fail because of having empty games, right? So that's definitely a disaster.
And I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, so I know that pain. On that note, Chris, thank you so much.